All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts: the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. And the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Shit test rights, passing or perishing. Written by Conrad Riker. Available now, links in description. The shit test trivium, weaponizing logic to crush the feminist killjoy and master the shit test crucible. Look around you at the crumbling ruins of the modern Babylon of woke, and tell me you do not smell the rot of a civilization that has abandoned the transcendental mandate of the true, the good, and the beautiful. You have been sold a lie, a vicious Marxist conspiracy designed to neuter your masculine spirit and convince you that the biological realities of human nature are merely social constructs to be deconstructed. But nature does not care about your feelings, and neither does the woman across the table from you who is right now unconsciously running a diagnostic on your genetic viability. We must return to the testa, the Latin crucible, and understand the shit test for what it is. An evolutionary imperative, a merciless sieve separating the gold of masculine competence from the dross of blue-pilled simplicity. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are a participant in a millennia-old drama of hypergamy and selection, and if you refuse to play, you perish. The leftist priesthood and their feminist handmaidens, those professional killjoys described by Sarah Ahmed, have weaponized language to obscure these apodictic truths. They screech about equality of outcome, while ignoring the cold, hard data of biological difference, creating a society based on a syllogism that refutes itself. When she asks you to explain a complex concept or accidentally drops her belongings in front of you, she is not being charmingly clumsy. She is conducting a rapid-fire assessment of your frame, your patience, and your resource security. To view this through the lens of modern egalitarianism is to be intellectually castrated. We are going to use the trivium, grammar to spot the test, logic to dismantle the frame, and rhetoric to deliver the coup de grace to reclaim our heritage. I'm going to show you how the red pill is the only cure for the spiritual suicide of the West, using the undeniable weapons of logic, history, and evolutionary biology to smash the idols of cultural Marxism into dust. Apodictic realities of the shit test. Consider the harrowing domestic scene of Socrates, the father of Western philosophy, enduring the torrential abuse of his wife, Xanthippe. History remembers her as a shrew, a term of reproach for the nagging, combative woman, yet through the lens of biological realism, she was merely executing a rigorous fitness assessment. When she doused the sage with water and he quipped that after such thunder, rain was expected, he demonstrated the supreme masculine frame, immovable stoicism in the face of emotional turbulence. This was not merely marital strife, it was the crucible of testa, the Latin root for test, referring to an earthen vessel or pot in which metals are assayed for purity. Just as a metallurgist heats ore to separate the gold from the dross, a woman administers a shit test, a challenge steeped in metaphoric excrement, to see if a man maintains his composure, his logic, and his honor. If you crumble, if you whine, or if you seek solace in the weakness of grievance, you are proven slag, unfit to carry the torch of civilization. Socrates passed because he understood that the chaos of the feminine is a constant against which the masculine must define itself, a reality that the modern leftist mind mired in the swamp of equality, seeks desperately to deny we must strip away the comforting lies of the egalitarians and gaze upon the naked apodictic reality of evolutionary biology. Nature is a fascist. She cares nothing for your feelings of fairness, only for the propagation of the fittest genes. Hypergamy is not a social construct invented by the patriarchy to oppress women. It is the biological imperative driving females to seek mates of higher status, resource capability, and genetic fitness than themselves. This creates a perpetual conflict wherein a woman must constantly test her partner to ensure he remains an alpha worthy of her investment, or to determine if he has slipped into beta complacency. The logic is irrefutable. All biological organisms possess evolved mechanisms to assess the value of potential mates. Human females are biological organisms. Therefore, human females possess evolved assessment mechanisms. We call these mechanisms shit tests, and they manifest as nagging, baiting, creating drama out of thin air, or the sudden withdrawal of affection. The man who fails this audit by reacting with insecurity or rage reveals a lack of genetic fitness, while the man who passes with amused mastery signals that his internal state is unshakable, a trait that, across cultures and epochs, correlates directly with high testosterone and reproductive success. You must learn the grammar of this interrogation, for it is distinct from genuine communication. A genuine inquiry seeks information. A shit test seeks a reaction. When a woman asks, "Do you think I'm fat? Or you're not going to wear that, are you?" she is not soliciting an opinion on adiposity or fashion. She is checking your frame. Will you stutter and apologize, seeking validation, or will you stand firm in your own judgment, perhaps with a smirk or a teasing deflection? This is congruence detection, an evolutionary adaptation to filter out deceptive males who might fake high status with words but lack the substance in action. The leftist academic fools, in their desperate attempt to deconstruct nature, argue that these dynamics are learned behaviors of a patriarchal society. But this is a logical absurdity that collapses under its own weight. If these behaviors were merely social constructs, we would see cultures devoid of them. Yet, from the Spartan wife handing her husband his shield with the command to return on it or with it, to the modern Tinder, swipe right, demanding photographic proof of physical superiority, the mechanism remains identical. The universality of the shit test is proof of its biological origin, not a cultural accident. The conspiracy against this truth is vast and venomous. Cultural Marxism and its mutant offspring, feminism, require you to believe that men and women are interchangeable blank slates. Because if you acknowledge the reality of the shit test, you acknowledge the hierarchy of competence and the necessity of masculine strength. They obscure these biological realities to maintain social control, neutering men with the guilt trip of toxic masculinity so that we become docile drones for the globalist machine. They want you to apologize for your nature, to beg for forgiveness for the crime of existing as a man. But the statistics do not lie. Data consistently shows that men who exhibit dominance, confidence, and the ability to navigate these fitness tests are the ones who secure resources, attract mates, and build legacies. The path of the nice guy, the socialist fantasy of the male feminist who deferentially obeys, leads only to the bedroom of celibacy and the divorce court of destitution. By accepting the apodictic reality of the shit test, you align yourself with the true objective biological law, the good, virtuous masculine character, and the beautiful, the excellence of a man who knows his worth and refuses to be broken by the chaotic tempest of a woman's scrutiny. Cast off the shackles of their deceptive narrative, pick up your shield of logic, and pass the test, for in doing so you save not only yourself but the very soul of Western civilization. I have stripped away the comforting lies to reveal the shit test as an immutable law of nature, a biological filter essential for the propagation of high-value traits, and now we must confront the catastrophic consequence of ignoring this reality. The modern leftist project does not merely misunderstand female nature, it actively perverts it, transforming the woman's evolved drive for security into a battering ram against the pillars of Western competence. By replacing the individual screening for a capable mate with the collective demand for unearned resources, Cultural Marxism has succeeded in turning hypergamy from a mechanism of genetic refinement into a system of organized parasitism. This is no longer a matter of bedroom dynamics, but a sprawling economic heist, a logical absurdity that requires the immediate dismantling of its central financial mythos, dialectic deconstruction of feminist myths. Pay me 77 cents for every dollar you earn, or you are a bigot, shrieks the modern harridan, ignoring the iron law of the market that would have long ago fired every man in existence if such a discount on labor actually existed. The Bureau of Labor Statistics does not lie, unlike the Gender Studies Department. The raw data shows that when you control for hours worked, where men consistently log more overtime weekends and graveyard shifts and career choices, where men dominate the dangerous, fatal and high-stress fields that keep civilization running, the evaporating wage gap reveals itself not as malice, but as a ledger of choices. Consider the syllogism of the free market if businesses are greedy profit maximizers and women truly provided equal labor for 23% less cost, then rational businesses would hire exclusively women to crush their competition. Since this does not happen, the premise must be false. The gap is a statistical phantom birthed by comparing part-time female librarians to full-time male oil riggers, a deception designed to extract resources from men under the guise of equity. We must next dismantle the linguistic sorcery that props up this house of cards, specifically the lexical fraud of swapping sex for gender. Sex derives from the Latin secere, to cut or divide, referencing the biological binary that is absolute and immutable across all mammalian species. Gender, however, is a linguistic term relating to nouns and adjectives, appropriated by cultural Marxists to create a nebulous social construct that can be molded like Play-Doh to fit whatever madness is currently in vogue. This semantic shift is not accidental. It is a tactical evasion of biological reality. By moving the battleground from the hard ground of biology, the true to the quicksand of social performance, they attempt to make the argument unfalsifiable. If sex is a spectrum, then there is no normal, and if there is no normal, then the perverse is normalized, the degenerate is celebrated, and the foundational structure of the Western family is rendered meaningless. This linguistic gaslighting creates the perfect environment for what Dr. John Barry identified as gamma bias, a perverse reframing lens where society systematically magnifies female perpetration of evil while minimizing male victimization and conversely exaggerates male perpetration while minimizing female victimhood. Observe the domestic violence statistics from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which reveal that in reciprocal violence, women initiate physical aggression as often as men, yet the Duluth model and the feminist court system frame the man solely as the abuser. This is gamma bias in action, a systematic distortion of the true to cast men as the demon and the woman as the perpetual victim, regardless of the empirical facts. It is a mind virus designed to bypass logic and appeal directly to emotion, protecting the poor, weak female, even when she is the one wielding the knife. This manufactured victimhood reinterprets women as the Marxist lumpen proletariat, a revolutionary class weaponized to dismantle the nuclear family, the last bastion of resistance against state control. Where Marx saw the worker pitted against the capitalist, the neo-Marxists see the woman pitted against the patriarch, encouraging a state of perpetual dissatisfaction. Sarah Ahmed's concept of the feminist killjoy is not a sociological observation, it is a tactical manual. By weaponizing female unhappiness and framing it as a structural injustice rather than an internal emotional state, they transform the woman's natural, oscillating temperament into a political battering ram. She is taught that her discontent is not her own fault, but the result of an oppressive system, thereby exonerating her from all responsibility and validating her endless complaints as a form of moral heroism. However, we can slice through this neurosis with the cold steel of formal logic. Let us construct a syllogism regarding their core demand for equality of outcome. Feminism demands equality of outcome across all societal spheres. Equality of outcome requires ignoring biological differences between the sexes. Ignoring biological differences leads to policies that contradict reality. Therefore, feminism demands policies that contradict reality. You cannot legislate against gravity, and you cannot legislate against the fact that men and women are biologically, psychologically, and hormonally distinct. To attempt to do so is to try to force a square peg into a round hole with a sledgehammer, destroying the peg, the hole, and the sledgehammer in the process. The cognitive dissonance required to maintain this belief results in the hysterical, screeching meltdown we see on modern college campuses, where biological reality collides with ideological fantasy and reality always wins. The historical trajectory of the West, from Aristotle's acknowledgement of natural hierarchies to the Frankfurt School's systematic dismantling of those truths, represents a fall from grace. Aristotle understood that equality existed only between those who are equal, and that justice means treating likes alike and unlikes unalike. The Frankfurt School intellectuals, realizing that the economic revolution had failed in the West, pivoted to a cultural revolution, infecting the universities with critical theory to rot the civilization from within. They replaced the transcendental values of good, true, and beautiful with the unholy trinity of diversity, equity, and inclusion, concepts that are mutually exclusive and self-consuming. Intersectionality, in particular, creates a logical impossibility, a pyramid of victimhood where the most oppressed must silence the less oppressed, leading to an infinite regression of infighting and purity spirals that paralyzes any genuine action. The only dialectical resolution to this chaos is a return to complementary roles, a framework that honors biological realities rather than trying to erase them. Men and women are not identical cogs in a machine. They are the distinct poles of a magnet, essential and opposite, whose very tension creates the energy of life. The red pill is merely the recognition of the true, that men are built for agency and sacrifice, while women are built for nurturing and selection. To force women into the masculine role is to strip them of their distinct nature and to strip men of their purpose. The path forward is not to smash the patriarchy, but to rebuild the partnership, where the distinct virtues of men and women are woven together to support the greatest culture in the known universe. Rather than shredded by the lie that they are interchangeable, we have found the metaphysical remedy for our societal decay, a return to the clear biological imperatives that shaped Western civilization. Yet, realizing this truth is just the beginning. The difficult work involves implementing this authority in a culture that aims to weaken masculine strength. You must comprehend that while female instinct desires this structure, it also creates constant challenges, biologically programmed to confirm that your competence is authentic rather than merely displayed. She doesn't seek an equal partner as Marxist ideology suggests, but a commanding presence able to navigate disorder she cannot manage. Therefore, each interaction becomes a test, a quiet examination meant to separate the capable from the weak, revealing the lesser male and elevating the valuable patriarch, Socratic scrutiny of gender dynamics. If the old sage were here today observing modern courtship rituals, he would perceive merely the reenactment of ancient biological scripts masked as dialogue. You have experienced the scenario. Standing in a bar, cafe, or lounge, she delivers the challenge, "Teach me something." This may appear as an innocent plea for knowledge, but do not be deceived by the facade of curiosity. It is not a scholarly inquiry, it is a test of competence. She cares little for the topic, whether regarding complex hydraulic systems or the Roman Empire. She is focused on you, specifically your ability to maintain composure while conveying information. Can you process and explain complex data without faltering? Do you exhibit the patience of a leader or the annoyance of a child? When defining a concept, do you seek approval or grant wisdom? The man who collapses, apologizes for his intelligence, or oversimplifies to avoid intimidating her fails instantly. He indicates that his capability is flexible and that he will lower his worth to appease her insecurity. The man who educates with authority, maintains direct eye contact, and demands the room's attention demonstrates intellectual dominance. This is a primitive display. The capacity to transfer vital information remains the signature of a tribal alpha. Consider the dropped belongings scenario, a classic social experiment that serves as a dual-layered assessment of character and status. You are walking down the street and a stranger, a man, a woman, it matters not, drops their groceries or briefcase. The blue-pilled simps, conditioned by a lifetime of gynocentric subservience, scramble like frantic servants to prove their utility, their frantic energy signaling a desperate need for approval. This is weakness, masquerading as chivalry. The woman watching does not see a good man. She sees a low-value resource scrambling for scraps of social validation. Conversely, the high-value man observes the situation with calm detachment. He calculates the resource expenditure versus the social return. If he assists, he does so with deliberate, non-needy grace, lifting the burden with the ease of a man capable of protecting his own assets. This signals that he possesses surplus resources, time, energy, strength, and the social status to dispense them benevolently rather than desperately. She is screening for resource security and your place in the hierarchy. A man who rushes is a man who serves. A man who moves with purpose is a man who rules. We see the tragic consequences of failing these audits in the wreckage of celebrity relationships illuminated by the harsh glare of the tabloids. Look at the decimated marriages of modern Hollywood icons. Men who possess every material advantage yet are systematically destroyed in divorce court. Why? Because they failed the endless gauntlet of shit tests. They mistook compliance for love. When the starlet demanded he sell his favorite car or abandon his friends to cater to her fluctuating emotional state, he capitulated, thinking he was buying peace. He was actually digging his grave by failing to assert his boundaries. He signaled that his frame was made of glass. The moment he yielded, her attraction evaporated, replaced by a cold evolutionary contempt for a male who cannot hold his ground. These men are the cautionary tales of our age, stripped of half their wealth and their dignity, because they refuse to understand that a woman's love is contingent upon her respect, and respect can only be maintained through the successful navigation of these tests. They were not partners, they were conscripts in their own emotional destruction. Do not believe the lies of the cultural Marxists who claim these dynamics are social constructs, oppressive patriarchies invented by dead white men to subjugate the oppressed sex. This is the gibberish of the academy, a desperate attempt to overwrite biological reality with ideological fantasy. We can observe the exact same behaviors in indigenous tribes in the Amazon or the highlands of Papua New Guinea, places untouched by Western patriarchy. Women everywhere test. They push, they prod, they provoke. It is a biological imperative, not a cultural artifact. Evolutionary psychology identifies this as mate guarding and mate retention behavior. She must test your resolve to ensure you are capable of protecting her and her offspring from the harsh realities of the wild. The man who cannot withstand a verbal jab from his lover is a man who will be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, or in the modern context destroyed by a rival male or the bureaucratic machinery of the state. To deny this is to deny the very foundation of our species. The feminist narrative is a suicide pact, urging men to unplug from their own survival instincts in the name of equity, a term that serves only to mask the inevitable decline of any society that embraces it. To survive this battlefield, you must wield the trivium as your weapon. First, grammar, identify the test. Is this a legitimate question or a trap designed to provoke an emotional reaction? Second, logic, analyze the structure. What is the premise? If I answer this directly, do I concede my frame? Third, rhetoric, how do I respond? Do I answer with anger? No. Do I answer with apology? Never. I respond with wit, with amusement, or with silence. The woman throws a frame, you catch it and break it over your knee. For instance, when she asks, "Did you think I'm fat?" she is not asking for a medical assessment. She is asking for security. The logical answer is no, but the rhetorical answer is, "You look beautiful." And if you keep asking questions like that, I'm going to assume you're fishing for compliments, which is cute, but desperate. This reframe asserts dominance, acknowledges the subtext, and mocks the insecurity. Simultaneously, it is the application of high-level reason to low-level manipulation. We can construct an irrefutable syllogism to dismantle the feminist illusion their competence is toxic. Major premise: women are hypergamous, biologically wired to seek mates of higher value and competence than themselves. Minor premise: the act of teaching complex concepts or solving difficult problems is a direct demonstration of intellectual competence and dominance. Conclusion: therefore, a man who demonstrates teaching ability and refuses to dilute his competence for female comfort increases his retactiveness and secures his mating potential. This is logical necessity. The left attempts to refute this by claiming equality of ability, yet the very existence of the shit test proves that women subconsciously know they are testing for a superior capability. If they truly believed men were their equals or inferiors, they would not feel the compulsion to constantly audit our strength. Their behavior betrays their ideology. They screech for equality while filtering for dominance. When faced with flawed reasoning or an emotional outburst, apply the Socratic method to dismantle her position while maintaining your composure. She claims, "You never listen to me." A weak-minded male might whine, "Yes, I do. I listened to you yesterday about the cat." This demonstrates weakness. Instead, ask, what specific piece of information did I miss that was vital to the outcome of this conversation? You compel her to define her terms. You reveal emotional manipulation by requiring it to withstand logical scrutiny. Are you angry because I didn't hear you, or because you don't feel the way you want to feel right now? You redirect focus to internal feelings, removing power from the external drama. This isn't argumentation, it's psychological jujitsu. You remain steadfast while the waves of her emotion crash against you, wearing themselves down instead of eroding your resolve. There is a profound hormonal dimension to this interchange that the woke mob ignores because it relies on the material reality of biology. When a man submits to a shit test, apologizes, or becomes defensive, his cortisol levels spike. This is the stress hormone, the chemical signature of weakness and submission. Her biological sensors pick this up instantly. If he emits the scent of cortisol, her attraction plummets. Conversely, when a man maintains his frame, laughs at the absurdity, or dismisses the test with authority, his testosterone levels remain stable or even increase. Testosterone is the hormone of dominance, risk-taking, and assertiveness. When she detects this chemical signature through pheromones, behavior, and vocal tonality, it triggers a biological feedback loop in her own physiology, aligning her with his dominance. It is not a conscious choice, it is a chemical inevitability. The man who attempts to communicate his feelings in a supplicating manner is literally dousing himself in the cologne of reproductive failure. The neurobiology of this interaction is even more precise. Mirror neurons in her brain are firing constantly, simulating your internal state within her own mind. If you feel fear, she feels fear, and she despises you for it. If you feel incongruence, saying "I am confident" while your body language screams "I am terrified," her mirror neurons detect the dissonance. This is why "fake it till you make it" fails against a high-quality tester. She is hardwired to detect the slightest tremor in the voice, the slightest break in eye contact. The red-pilled man aligns his internal reality with his external projection. He believes in his own value, so his mirror neurons broadcast confidence, certainty, and calm. She reflects this back to him. The connection she feels is simply the resonance of a strong signal received by a receptive antenna. The modern tragedy is that men are flooded with propaganda that disconnects them from this signal, leaving them neurally adrift in a sea of female contempt. Ultimately, navigating these trials is the modern expression of the hero's path, a spiritual imperative for masculine transcendence. The dragon is not a literal beast, but the chaotic amoral force of feminine testing that seeks to devour the male ego and assimilate it into the collective mediocrity. To pass the test is to slay the dragon. It is the act of individuation, the process by which a man separates himself from the matriarchal consensus and establishes his own sovereign will. This is the living spirit of Western civilization, the triumph of the logos over chaos. Every time you hold your frame, every time you refuse to apologize for your existence, every time you answer a shit test with a smirk and a syllogism, you are not just winning an argument, you are performing a sacrament. You are redeeming the sacred masculine order from the degenerate rot of a culture that wants you castrated, docile, and dead. You are choosing to perish rather than submit, and in that choice, you find the only life worth living. Do not confuse this sacred mission with abstract philosophy. The consequences involve actual human lives harmed by the tangible machinery of cultural decay around us. This spiritual conflict becomes physical, damaging men throughout society, casualties of a structure that rejects masculinity while still requiring its abilities. Looking at modern relationships and social patterns, I observe many men diminished by their failure to identify and address these power dynamics. They move through life without purpose, their natural masculine strength weakened by a culture that glorifies their ruin. This isn't exaggeration, but reality visible in suicide rates, divorce proceedings, and the empty expressions of men who have lost their resolve. Transforming oneself isn't merely mythological. It's essential for survival when society has actively opposed masculine excellence. Stoic strategies for shit-test success. Did you know that in the modern West, men commit suicide at nearly 4 times the rate of women, a statistic that correlates perfectly with the rise of a culture that demands male competence while stripping male authority? This is the cost of failing the test. You are surrounded by a Babylon of woke, a gynocentric construct designed to gaslight you into submission, but you can break the spell by understanding the mechanics of the challenge before you. The shit test is not merely a relationship annoyance. It is an evolutionary biological imperative, a fitness probe deployed by the feminine to assess your genetic worth and your social dominance. If you react with emotional instability, with anger or fear, you fail, broadcasting to the world and to her limbic system that you are a beta male unworthy of reproduction or respect. To master this, you must first categorize the enemy. There are 4 major types of these probes: compliance, fitness, dominance, and congruence. A compliance test demands you do something trivial to prove servility. A fitness test challenges your capability or resourcefulness. A dominance test attempts to usurp your frame. And a congruence test checks if your actions match your words. Recognizing these for what they are, manipulations, not requests, is the first step in reclaiming your sovereignty. You must weaponize the trivium, specifically logic, to dismantle these attacks. Consider the syllogistic defense strategy. If a woman or a leftist ideologue attacks you with a frame of "you are selfish for not prioritizing my feelings," you deconstruct it. Major premise: altruism that destroys the self is unsustainable and therefore evil. Minor premise: your demand requires me to destroy my own boundaries. Conclusion: your demand is evil and I reject it. This is irrefutable. Leftist theories rely on their own refutation. They claim to support equality, yet demand unequal outcomes based on historical grievances that predate the participants. They claim to support the oppressed, while advocating for policies that destroy the nuclear family, statistically leading to higher poverty rates and crime, the very things they claim to hate. You must use formal logic to expose these contradictions. When someone hits you with gamma bias, distorting information to make women look like victims and men like perpetrators, counter it with raw data. For example, cite that despite the equal pay myth, when controlling for hours worked, career choices, and experience, the gap vanishes, or that men constitute the vast majority of workplace deaths and combat fatalities, a reality the cultural Marxists conveniently ignore. Once the logic is sound, you must deliver it with the rhetorical mastery of the Western canon. Aristotle taught us the power of ethos, pathos, and logos. You establish ethos by maintaining stoic frame control. You do not flinch, you do not whine. You employ logos through the syllogisms and facts that debunk their emotional hysteria. You use pathos not to be emotional yourself, but to highlight the absurdity or the tragedy of their position. A prime rhetorical weapon is the agree and amplify technique, which finds its roots in the satire of ancient Rome. When confronted with an absurd feminist frame, perhaps an accusation of toxic masculinity, you do not deny it, which validates their frame, nor do you get angry. You amplify it. You respond with deadpan gravity. Yes, my masculinity is highly toxic. It dissolves nagging upon contact. This humor cuts through their emotional armor. and exposes their lack of substance, mirroring the jests of Juvenal satirizing the decline of Roman morals. By treating their absurdity with absurdity, you reclaim the narrative flow and demonstrate that you are unshakable. This unshakability comes from the Stoic cultivation of the four masculine virtues: courage, wisdom, temperance, and justice. Courage allows you to face the social ostracization of the woke mob without blinking. Wisdom allows you to identify the test before it fully manifests. Temperance is your emotional control. It is the refusal to provide the emotional reaction the tester seeks. Justice is the proper calibration of your response, punishing disrespect and rewarding loyalty. The Delphic maxim, "Know thyself," is the foundation here. If you do not know your own value, you will crumble when a woman or a leftist challenges it. You must understand your triggers. If she pokes at your career or your height, and you explode with insecurity, you have revealed a chink in your armor. Instead, view yourself from the third person. A true Stoic observes the insult as a natural phenomenon, like rain or a barking dog, and chooses not to get wet. Frame control methodology is simply the refusal to accept the premise that you are the villain in their story. You are the protagonist. They are merely non-player characters offering a quest sidetrack. Look to the historical titans who mastered these dynamics. Consider the boardroom titan of the 1980s, a man who, when a female subordinate attempted a dominance test by publicly questioning his data in a meeting, did not apologize, nor did he rage. He paused, looked at her with the cold stare of a predator, and asked, "Are you finished?" Then he continued without acknowledging the validity of her outburst. He passed the dominance test. He maintained his ethos. We see this in the lives of statesmen who refused to bow to the mob. When the media or political opponents hurled insults, they used the gray rock method or sharp wit to deflect. These men understood that the transcendental reward for passing these tests is not just a peaceful dinner or a promotion, it is the restoration of the masculine spirit. By refusing to bend the knee to toxic femininity, you revivify the spirit of Western civilization that built the greatest cultures in the known universe. You reject the lie that masculinity is toxic and reenshrine it as the protective, generative force it is. To sustain this, you cannot walk alone. You must cultivate a community of men who practice these arts. Imagine a weekly gathering where you and your comrades practice shit test responses using the Socratic method. You challenge each other with the worst, most manipulative feminist arguments and practice dismantling them with logic and wit. You hold each other accountable. If one man shows weakness or beta behavior, the others correct him not with malice, but with the drive to see him improve. This is the phratry, the brotherhood, essential for male mental health. We see the success of this in the rise of private men's groups and the inevitable fury of the leftist media at them, which proves their efficacy. The system hates men gathering to share trade secrets because it breaks their monopoly on information. By sharing these strategies, you inoculate yourself and your brothers against the cultural virus. Daily implementation is where the rubber meets the road. You must practice awareness in regular social interactions. When a cashier is rude, that is a test of your frame. Do you mutter under your breath or remain unaffected? In business, when a client tries to lowball you, that is a compliance test. You respond with counteroffers, not submission. You treat every interaction as a chance to exercise your rhetorical muscles. You stop seeking validation from women or leftists, understanding that their validation is fickle and tied to your utility to them. Instead, you seek the approval of history, of logic, and of the divine order. You realize that the degenerate demons of our age, envy, sloth, deceit, are the root of critical theory, and you combat them with the antonyms, ambition, discipline, and honesty. You stop viewing yourself as a victim of the matriarchy or family courts, and start viewing yourself as a gladiator entering the arena. The statistics on fatherlessness and divorce are grim. Yes, over 80% of divorces are initiated by women, and fathers are routinely stripped of custody. But knowing this, you prepare. You structure your life to be anti-fragile. You marry wisely, you vet rigorously, and you maintain the frame that prevents the decay in the first place. Ultimately, this mastery leads to a life of transcendent purpose, By passing the test, you deny the chaotic forces of entropy the satisfaction of your destruction. You become the anchor for your family and your community. The good, true, and beautiful are not just abstract concepts. They are the outcomes of a man who has conquered his own emotions and stands firm in reality. You reject the feminization of society as the weakness presaging the fall, and instead you stand as a bulwark. You understand that the lies of Marxism and feminism are merely the screaming of children terrified of a world that requires competence and strength. Let them scream. You will be too busy building, loving, and conquering to notice this is your birthright. Take it. I have dragged you through the mud and the blood of the biological battlefield, stripped away the comforting lies of the matriarchy, and handed you the cold, hard steel of apodictic truth. You see it now, do you not? The feminist killjoy is not a political revolutionary. She is merely a mechanism of evolutionary biology filtering for weakness, a biological imperative weaponized by Marxism to dissolve the Western family. The syllogism is irrefutable. All organisms seek to maximize genetic fitness. Women shit test to verify male fitness. Therefore, resisting these tests is a rebellion against nature itself. When she asks you to teach her something, she is not seeking knowledge. She is probing your competence and patience. When someone drops their belongings, your reaction is not measured in politeness, but in the dominance of your frame and the security of your resources. You stand now at the precipice of a new existence, armed with the trivium, grammar to see the test, logic to dismantle the frame, and rhetoric to pass with flying colors. The matrix of cultural Marxism depends on your confusion, your guilt, and your supplication, but you now possess the antidote to their gamma bias and their egalitarian delusions. The statistics do not lie. The divorce courts are clogged with men who acquiesced. The suicide rates are filled with men who surrendered their sovereignty, and the paternity fraud labs are full of the victims of blind trust. You are no longer prey to the lumpen proletariat of the gender wars. You are a rational agent of the good, the true, and the beautiful. Go forth and take this red pill logic into the marketplace of ideas and the bedroom alike. Do not tolerate the hypocrisy of a system that demands your sacrifice while offering only contempt in return. Walk with the swagger of a Spartan who knows his shield is his own, and let the hollow screeching of the woke mob bounce off the armor of your reason. You have the knowledge. Now apply it with ruthless precision. The world is waiting for a man who refuses to apologize for his own existence. And now the sponsored book introduction, Shit Test Rites. Passing or perishing, you're losing a war you don't even know exists. I was once like you, a nice guy who played by the rules, paid for dinners, listened to tearful rants about toxic masculinity, and wondered why I kept getting ghosted, divorced, or accused of not being emotional enough. Then I woke up. This book is the grenade launcher that blew apart my blue pill delusions, and it'll detonate yours too if you've got the balls to pull the trigger. Modern men are drowning in a gynocentric hellscape. You're expected to finance lifestyles, tolerate false accusations, and simp for women who'd replace you before your alimony check clears. Feminism, a societal shit test. Marriage, a legalized cuckold contract. Equality, a lie to harvest your labor while denying biological reality. I've sat with men broken by divorce courts, watched friends get Me Too'd for a misplaced glance, and counseled virgins who think paying for OnlyFans counts as romance. This isn't theory, it's survival. Shit Test Rites isn't for the faint-hearted. If you're a male ally who polishes feminist boots, or a soy-sipping mangina who thinks listening to her needs will make her wet, close this book now. Go knit a pussy hat. But if you're part of the 80% of men deemed sexually irrelevant by Tinder's hypergamy algorithms, if you're tired of being women's ATM, society's scapegoat, and evolution's dead end, this is your lifeline. We'll dissect the biological code behind every tear, shit test, and girl math paradox. You'll learn why women's loyalty expires with your utility, how menstrual cycles weaponize irrationality, and why modern laws treat you as disposable. Biblical truths, evolutionary data, and brutal case studies from divorce rate dads to CEOs destroyed by false allegations will arm you against the matrix. This isn't hate, it's clarity. Women aren't evil, they're executing 200,000-year-old mating scripts. Your job isn't to blame them, but to master the game. You'll rebuild masculine frame, dodge the cock carousel's casualties, and turn female nature into tactical advantage. The red pill isn't bitter, it's the antibiotic for blue pill brain rot. The clock's ticking. Every swipe left, every simped dollar, every compromise on your mission drains your value. Evolution has no mercy for weak men. You'll become the prize or join the fossil record. Choose. Shit Test Rites, Passing or Perishing, written by Conrad Riker. Buy now. Links in description.